You are awake at 3 in the morning, and this is not the first time. Your body lies still, but your mind churns with thoughts you cannot name, anxieties that have no clear source, a pressure in your chest that feels like something wants to break through your ribcage and speak. You reach for your phone, scroll through the blue glow of distraction, maybe turn on the television, anything to silence this unbearable presence that fills the dark hours. But here is what you have not considered. Your sleeplessness is not a malfunction. It is a message. And the fact that you are fighting it, medicating it, running from it, proves you have not yet understood what Carl Jung spent decades trying to tell us. The psyche does not make mistakes. When it forces you awake in the darkest hours, when it refuses to let you rest, it is not torturing you. It is summoning you. Jung observed something in his clinical work that most doctors and sleep specialists still refuse to acknowledge. Chronic insomnia, the kind that appears without medical cause, the kind that haunts you night after night despite your exhaustion, is not a disorder of the body. It is a rebellion of the soul. Your unconscious mind, that vast intelligence beneath your waking awareness, has been trying to communicate with you during the day. It has sent you dreams you ignored, intuitions you dismissed, emotional signals you medicated away with busyness and distraction. And now, in its desperation to be heard, it has taken the most radical action available to it. It has stolen your sleep. Because when you cannot sleep, you cannot hide. When the world goes quiet and the defenses of your ego weaken in exhaustion, the truth you have been running from finally has a chance to reach you. This is not random. The timing of your wakefulness matters more than you realize. 3 in the morning, that specific hour when the night feels heaviest and most oppressive, is what mystics and depth psychologists have long recognized as the hour of the soul. It is the moment when the veil between your conscious mind and your unconscious becomes thinnest, when the persona you wear during daylight dissolves, and what lies beneath can finally surface. Jung called this the confrontation with the shadow. Those aspects of yourself you have denied, repressed, pushed into darkness because they did not fit the image you needed to maintain. Your ambitions that contradict your chosen life path. Your rage beneath your pleasant demeanor. Your grief that you never allowed yourself to fully feel. Your desires that society taught you to be ashamed of. All of this waits in the unconscious, and when you refuse to acknowledge it consciously, it finds other ways to make itself known. It keeps you awake. Listen carefully to what happens during these sleepless hours. Your thoughts are not random. They circle around specific themes, return again and again to particular memories, relationships, decisions you made years ago that still carry an emotional charge. You might find yourself remembering conversations from childhood, feeling inexplicable anxiety about your career despite outward success, or experiencing a nameless dread that something fundamental in your life is wrong. These are not symptoms of anxiety disorder, though that is what the medical establishment will name them. These are symptoms of a psyche trying desperately to show you what you have been refusing to see. Jung discovered that the unconscious speaks in patterns, in symbols, in emotional tones that bypass rational thought, and insomnia is one of its loudest voices. The mistake almost everyone makes is treating sleeplessness as an enemy to be conquered. You take the pills, you practice the sleep hygiene, you try meditation apps and white noise machines, all designed to force yourself back into unconsciousness. But Jung would tell you that this is exactly backwards. You are not suffering from too much wakefulness. You are suffering from too much sleep. Not physical sleep, but psychological sleep. You have been sleepwalking through your own life, living on autopilot, following scripts written by your family, your culture, your fear of what others might think if you deviated from the expected path. And now your deeper self, the part of you that knows who you actually are beneath all the conditioning, has decided it will no longer tolerate this betrayal. It will keep you awake until you finally wake up. Consider what Jung called the unlived life. Those aspects of your potential self that you sacrificed in order to become acceptable, successful, safe. Perhaps you abandoned your creative calling for a practical career. Perhaps you suppressed your emotional intensity to avoid being called too sensitive. Perhaps you performed a version of masculinity or femininity that never quite fit your actual nature. Perhaps you stayed in relationships that slowly suffocated your soul because leaving felt too dangerous, too selfish, too unknown. Every choice you made to betray your authentic self, every time you said yes when your whole being wanted to say no, every dream you killed before it could threaten your security, all of this accumulates in the unconscious like pressure in a sealed container. And eventually, that pressure must find release. It finds it at 3 in the morning when your defenses are down and you can no longer pretend. The physical sensations that accompany the sacred insomnia are not incidental. The racing heart, the tightness in your chest, the feeling that something terrible is about to happen, even though nothing in your external circumstances justifies this fear. Jung understood these as somatic manifestations of psychic truth. Your body is responding to a real threat, but the threat is not outside you. The threat is that you will continue living a life that is not actually yours. The threat is that you will reach the end of your days having never become who you were meant to be. This is what your nervous system is trying to tell you in the only language it knows. Danger. Wake up. Change course. Now. Most people, when they experience this, do everything possible to make it stop. They increase their medication, they work harder to exhaust themselves. They fill every moment with noise and activity so the voice cannot reach them. And sometimes they succeed. They manage to suppress the rebellion, force themselves back into unconscious sleep, return to the life they were living before. But Jung warned that this victory is actually a defeat, because the psyche does not give up. If you refuse the invitation of insomnia, if you will not listen when it speaks gently, it will speak louder. The sleeplessness becomes chronic. The anxiety intensifies. Physical symptoms appear. Relationships deteriorate. Depression sets in, not as a chemical imbalance, but as the soul's final protest against a life that has become unbearable. What began as a summons becomes a crisis, and the crisis will continue escalating until you finally pay attention. But there is another way. Jung offered his patients something radical. Stop fighting your sleeplessness. Stop treating it as a problem to be solved. Instead, recognize it as an initiation. You have been called into the night sea journey, that ancient psychological passage where the old self must die so the new self can be born. Your insomnia is the threshold, and the only way through is to stop running and finally turn around and face what has been chasing you through the dark hours. Because it is not a monster. It is you, the real you, the one you abandoned. And it will not let you rest until you come home. You have tried everything, haven't you? The breathing exercises, the meditation apps, the supplements lined up on your nightstand like tiny soldiers against the dark. You have counted backwards from 100. You have imagined peaceful beaches and mountain streams. You have rearranged your pillows, adjusted the temperature, eliminated blue light, and still, at 3 in the morning, you lie there, eyes wide open, while something unnamed circles in the darkness of your mind. This is because you are treating a spiritual emergency as if it were a biological malfunction. Jung understood what modern sleep science refuses to acknowledge. Your sleeplessness is not a disorder of the body. It is a rebellion of the soul. And the moment you stop fighting it and start listening to it, everything changes. The first thing you must understand is that what keeps you awake is not random neural misfiring. It is not cortisol or circadian rhythm disruption, though those may be present. What keeps you awake is a presence. Jung called it the shadow, that vast repository of everything you have denied, rejected, and exiled from your conscious identity. During daylight hours, your ego maintains control. You perform your role, you wear your mask, you present the version of yourself that is acceptable, productive, and safe. But at night, when the ego's defenses weaken, when the fortress walls of your constructed identity begin to crumble, the shadow emerges, and it has been waiting for this moment. You're probably still in bed right now. If it's the case, just nod if you agree. The shadow does not speak in words. It speaks in sensations, in racing thoughts that seem to come from nowhere, in sudden memories from decades past that arrive with inexplicable emotional intensity. It speaks in the tightness in your chest, the restlessness in your limbs, the feeling that something is deeply, fundamentally wrong, even though you cannot name what it is. This is not anxiety in the clinical sense. This is recognition. Your shadow is showing you everything you have refused to see about yourself. The anger you have swallowed, the desires you have deemed inappropriate, the grief you never allowed yourself to feel, the parts of your personality you amputated because they did not fit the image you needed to project to survive in your family, your workplace, your relationship, your culture. Jung worked with a patient, a successful businessman who had not slept properly in 2 years. Every night, the same pattern. He would fall asleep easily, then wake at exactly 2:47 in the morning with his heart pounding, consumed by a nameless dread. He tried everything. Different doctors, different medications, different sleep hygiene protocols. Nothing worked. When he finally came to Jung, exhausted and desperate, Jung asked him one question. What were you doing when you were 23 years old? The man looked confused. Jung repeated the question. What were you doing at 23? The man said he was in university, studying engineering, preparing for the career his father had chosen for him. And what did you want to be doing? Jung asked. The man went silent. Then, almost in a whisper, he said, I wanted to paint. I wanted to be an artist, but that was foolish, impractical. My father said it was a waste of my intelligence, so I gave it up. I put it away. Jung leaned forward. You put it away, he said. But it did not go away. It has been waiting. And now it wakes you every night at 2:47, the exact time you used to wake up in university to paint in secret before your classes began. The man's face went white. Within 3 months of beginning to paint again, his insomnia disappeared completely. This is what your sleeplessness is trying to tell you. There's a part of you that you killed, not physically, but psychologically. You made a decision, perhaps years ago, perhaps decades ago, to sacrifice some essential aspect of yourself for safety, for approval, for survival. And that sacrificed self has become your shadow. It lives in the unconscious now, exiled but not destroyed, and it will not let you rest until you acknowledge what you have done, until you face the truth of what you gave up and why you gave it up, until you stop pretending that you can live a half-life and expect to feel whole. But the shadow is not the only presence that disturbs your sleep. For men, there is the anima, the denied feminine aspects of the psyche. For women, there is the animus, the rejected masculine elements. Jung discovered that we are all fundamentally androgynous at the level of the soul, but society demands that we perform rigid gender roles, cutting away half of our psychological wholeness in the process. Men are taught to exile softness, receptivity, emotion, intuition. Women are taught to suppress assertion, anger, ambition, logical detachment. And these exiled aspects do not disappear. They accumulate in the unconscious, growing more powerful, more insistent, until they begin to invade your sleep. A woman came to Jung suffering from severe insomnia and violent, disturbing dreams. She was a devoted mother and wife, soft-spoken, gentle, always accommodating. But in her dreams she was a warrior, a destroyer, filled with rage. She would wake terrified of these dreams, convinced something was wrong with her. Jung explained that nothing was wrong. Her animus, the masculine energy she had suppressed her entire life, was trying to break through. She had been taught that anger was unladylike, that ambition was unfeminine, that asserting her needs was selfish, so she had buried these qualities. But they did not die. They festered, and now they were demanding integration. Jung worked with her to reclaim her capacity for healthy aggression, for boundary setting, for saying no. As she integrated her animus, the nightmare stopped, and so did the insomnia. This is the mechanism. Your psyche is not a single unified thing. It is a multiplicity, a parliament of different voices, different energies, different aspects of self. When you are young, you make unconscious decisions about which parts of this parliament are acceptable and which must be silenced. You create what Jung called the persona, the social mask, the version of yourself that is safe to show the world. But everything that does not fit the persona gets pushed into the shadow. And the shadow grows. It accumulates energy. It becomes more and more powerful, until one day it refuses to stay hidden any longer. And that is when the insomnia begins. At 3 in the morning, your persona is weak, the mask slips, and the shadow steps forward. It does not come to destroy you. It comes to be seen, to be heard, to be integrated. But if you do not know this, If you have never been taught the language of the unconscious, you will interpret its presence as a threat. You will fight it. You will try to push it back down. You will reach for distractions, for medications, for anything that will make it go away. And this is the tragedy. Because in fighting the shadow, you are fighting the very thing that could make you whole. Jung's instruction is radical in its simplicity. Stop fighting. Start listening. When you wake at 3 in the morning, do not reach for your phone. Do not turn on the television. Do not try to force yourself back to sleep. Instead, sit up, turn on a single dim light, take out a notebook and a pen, and write this question at the top of the page. What are you trying to tell me? Then write whatever comes. Do not edit, do not judge, do not try to make it make sense. Let your hand move, let the words flow. You are not writing, you are allowing the unconscious to speak through you. This is what Jung called active imagination, a technique for creating a dialogue between the conscious ego and the unconscious contents that are demanding attention. What will come through may surprise you. It may be a memory you have not thought about in years. It may be an emotion you have been refusing to feel. It may be a desire you have been too afraid to acknowledge. It may be a truth about your life, your relationships, your choices that you have been avoiding because facing it would require you to change everything. Write it down. All of it. Do not censor. Do not protect yourself from what your own psyche is trying to show you. Because this is the work. This is the individuation process Jung spoke of. The gradual, painful, necessary integration of the shadow into conscious awareness. The reclaiming of the exiled parts of yourself. The death of the false self and the birth of the true self. One of Jung's patients, a minister, had not slept properly in 5 years. He came to Jung as a last resort. Jung asked him to describe what happened when he could not sleep. The minister said he would lie awake consumed by sexual fantasies that horrified him. Fantasies that contradicted everything he believed, everything he preached, everything he had built his identity around. He had prayed for deliverance. He had fasted. He had confessed to God countless times. Nothing helped. Jung told him something that shocked him. These fantasies are not sins, they are messengers. They are showing you the parts of yourself you have demonized in order to maintain your persona as a holy man. You have denied your body, your instincts, your natural desires for so long that they have become monstrous in the unconscious. The minister was outraged. He almost left, but something made him stay. Over months of work with Jung, he began to understand. He did not need to act on every impulse, but he needed to acknowledge that he had impulses. He needed to stop pretending he was pure spirit and accept that he was also flesh, also animal, also human. As he integrated this shadow material, as he allowed himself to be whole rather than holy, his insomnia dissolved. And interestingly, he became a better minister, because he could finally meet his congregation as a fellow human rather than as a superior being who had transcended human weakness. This is what your sleeplessness is asking of you. Not perfection, not transcendence, not the elimination of your darkness, but integration, the willingness to see yourself completely, to acknowledge the parts of you that are angry, selfish, lustful, lazy, ambitious, cruel, petty, jealous, all the qualities you have spent your life denying because you were taught they were unacceptable. They are not unacceptable, they are human. And until you accept them as part of you, you will never be whole, and you will never truly rest.